Fixed mindset is where you believe your talent and intelligence are fixed. You're just born with it, is the way it is. Growth mindset is your talent and your intelligence can be changed through deliberate practice. So I was headed down one path where I thought, I was just born with this, whatever this is. And my life was about putting myself in situations where I felt cool and smart and didn't believe I could get any cooler or smarter. And then when I finally realized, oh wait, that's actually a dumb way to frame the world, click, binary switch over to, I choose to believe that I'm malleable, that I can get better, that I can get smarter, that I can learn something today that I didn't know how to do yesterday. And I went from, just to make this really gross for a second, I learned all of that in a dingy 1-bedroom apartment in a bad neighborhood with no furniture because I couldn't afford any. And we're now recording the podcast in my gigantic Beverly Hills mansion, right? And I'm saying that is a result of the mindset. That is not a result of me being better than somebody at something. That is a result of me figuring something out that I think not everybody can do, but anybody listening to this podcast, if they've made it this far, they meet what I call minimum requirements.
Wait, that is an empowering story. What I'm getting from you, Tom, is this idea that change is available to us at any time.
Correct.
And, we explore this a little bit on my conversation on your show about what does it take for us to change? Do we need adversity of a certain intensity to ask ourselves, to challenge our own belief system and make us change, basically? And I guess this is something I know you wrestle with. I wrestle with this all the time. I lie in bed thinking about this stuff, thinking, do you need fundamentally pain on one level to actually start the process of change? I don't think necessarily you do, but I think a lot of us, unfortunately, that is what ends up happening. That certainly is for me. What was it for you? How did you go from changing from a fixed to a growth mindset? Because I've heard people say, you've either got one or the other. You've either got your fixed mindset or you've got a growth mindset. And this fascinates me on an individual level. This fascinates me for patients that I see. Frankly, this fascinates me for my children, right? 2 young kids under 10. I want to learn from you about these different mindsets. If we are malleable, if we can adapt, if change is always available to us, then what are those things that we should be doing?
So here's the bad news about my story. It, of course, involves pain. So I didn't have to hit some crazy rock bottom, so I'm very grateful for that. So mine was a mixture of deep personal shame, of feeling like I was talking a big game about being successful, but I was not doing anything to actually become successful. And my father-in-law certainly was lovingly calling me out on that. And made it clear that he didn't want me to marry his daughter because he didn't see me doing anything with my life. And his very pointed question was, how do you plan to take care of my daughter? And my response to him was, I know what you see as a broke, out of work, undereducated kid, but I'm the most ambitious person you've ever met. And then the next day I laid in bed probably for 4 hours in the morning and had done that the day before and the day before and the day before and the day after and the day after and the day after. And it wasn't until finally I was like, man, I'm telling my wife or my then fiance, I'm going to make her rich one day, and I'm not doing anything to actually make good on that. And I've been saying this stuff for a very long time. I've been telling people I was going to be rich probably since I was 11 or 12. And so I just thought, wow, I say this all the time, but I'm not doing anything. And the fact that my wife, then fiance, is having to guilt me just to get out of bed, like that's a bad sign. So that begins a process. There was nothing binary, unfortunately. It wasn't like some lightning rod moment where one day I have a fixed mindset, then I have a growth mindset. Like I'd started researching the brain by this point. And so I'm thinking like, yeah, man, like it is a little weird that I'm not doing anything. Like, what do I know about the brain that would sort of explain this? And then as I begin learning about the brain and start coming across some of these ideas about brain plasticity and how much we can change, and I start really buying into that, then I meet people that they wouldn't have called it a growth mindset. We didn't have that language back then. But they had a growth mindset and they believed that they could change. And so I was like, whoa, yeah, this thing that I believe, I'm actually seeing it here in reality. And so right then I got involved in being an entrepreneur. And being an entrepreneur is like, if you want a growth mindset, put your house on the line and start a business. You'll get a growth mindset real fast because it's either that or you're going to lose the business, because you just have to own, I'm not good enough yet. I do not understand this. I'm too dumb to pull this off. So I really better get smart fast.
So are many of us too comfortable then to develop a growth mindset? So if our lives are okay, if we have a roof over our head, if we can pay the bills, and we're not, let's say, deeply fulfilled, but we're just going around living our life, we're waiting for the weekends, we get smashed on a Friday night, a Saturday night to sort of, for a whole multitude of reasons, you are making the case, I think, that you can just choose.
Yeah, I don't want to make it sound too easy, because it is not, and the brutally difficult, it's deadly simple, but it is very difficult for most people. So the problem is far more insidious than, oh, it's just people are too comfortable, because you have billionaires killing themselves. So we're dealing with now a mental health crisis. And so to really unpack the answer of change, you can talk about it without talking about the microbiome, but it would be a mistake. And so getting to really understand your physiology, I hope, is one of the things that I beat the drum so hard that people really begin to research the brain. They begin to research mood disorders. They understand exercise. They understand diet, because what ends up happening is your mood is so dysregulated, your belief system is so dysfunctional, and the psychological immune system is so strong that you get that biofilm around your belief system that becomes impenetrable. And no matter what you say to people, no matter what example you show to them, they just cannot shake themselves out of dysfunction. So what's happening is they have created an identity without realizing that they've created an identity. So if you're going to recognize that your identity in and of itself is a construction, and then ask yourself, okay, well, what would be the ideal identity to construct? The answer is to be that of the learner.
A very common thing for people to have is negative self-talk, right? So, I see it in friends, I see it in patients. I can't stick to any diet. Okay. This always happens to me, right? So there are universal truths for sure, but are those statements universal truths? No, clearly not. So somebody who is listening to this, who says, yeah, man, that's how I talk about myself. I'm pretty hard on myself. I put myself down all the time. I'm not the kind of person who exercises, workouts, they're just not for me. Oh God, I'm the one who always gets passed up for that job promotion, right? Are these examples, in your view, of self-limiting beliefs that can be shifted?
Definitively. Yeah.
So in every case.
1,000%. Those particular examples, 1,000%. So my thing, a rule that I live by, and a rule that I aggressively try to give anybody that will take it, is only do and believe that which moves you towards your goals. So if you want to feel badly about yourself, then telling yourself, yeah, I always get passed up for a promotion, the world is against me, like that is a dark place to live. If you want to have the confidence that's needed, the lightness, the charm, then you've got to internalize that, oh man, if you add value, you're going to move forward in life. This is all going to work out. It's going to be amazing. The amount of almost delusional optimism you need to be a successful entrepreneur is hilarious, because if you can't believe, you certainly can't get anybody else to believe. And so you've got to have this willingness to say things like that in your head. Like right now, my stated goal is to build the next Disney. Now you can imagine the odds of me pulling that off border on zero, but I don't think like that. I can't allow myself to think like that. So it's I have to say, okay, this is interesting enough to me. And what what I value myself for is the sincere pursuit. So I've completely divorced myself from the outcome. I don't care. Whether I do it or not is irrelevant. What I value myself for is, did I show up every day and actually go for it? Not rhetoric. Did I actually go for it? Was I constantly checking myself? Am I actually making progress? Am I doing the right things? Could this possibly lead me where I want to go? And if it can, then I get to celebrate myself at the end of the day. And if it can't, I'm just BSing and I'm just saying things to like say something cool and get people's attention, then I don't get to feel good about myself. So when you are able to go, oh, it wouldn't behoove me to sit here and focus on this is impossible. There's only one Disney for a reason. I'm never going to be able to pull this off. Like, if you can recognize that if you tell yourself you can't win, you will act in accordance with that belief. Like, you will only push so hard. Whereas if you believe, no, it's not going to be easy. But through deliberate practice, I can get so good. I can learn all the things that I need to learn. I can get the right people excited. I can get people motivated. I can make mistakes. I'm going to make a lot of mistakes, but I'm going to learn from those mistakes. And I'm the kind of guy that learns from mistakes. I'm not afraid to make mistakes. I just keep trying and trying and trying. And people like being around me because I'm uplifting. I'm high energy. I'm a lot of fun. So I'm going to be able to attract the right people. So when I meet somebody, I'm not thinking he's never going to like me. Like, there's enough going against you to not be fighting yourself with self-defeating. I won't even say beliefs, just repeating self-defeating things, repeating even negative things. You have to understand the power of repetition. People do not understand the power of repetition. You repeat negative things, you're going to believe negative things. You repeat positive things. At first, it will sound like BS to you, but over time, you'll actually be very comfortable with the idea.
This is different though, isn't it? From just saying the right things. Because you shared that, back in the day, I don't know, maybe in your 20s, you would say, oh, wait, it started, you're a lot younger. I am going to be rich. Okay. I don't know if you said I'm going to be a success, but you were saying the right things, right? So you had that positive language, yet you were not doing anything to actually make that come true, right?
This is not the secret. I'm not saying say positive things and everything changes. I'm just saying you remove one roadblock. Did you ever see The Secret?
I have not yet.
So I'll give it to you super fast. So The Secret is half amazing and half absolute BS. The half that's amazing says if you think you can, you can. If you think you can't, you can't. And that is true, dude. The way the mind works, man, if you believe it is possible, then you're the Roger Bannister effect.
Yeah.
It stood for decades. People thought that the 4-minute mile was humanly impossible, that the human body just couldn't do it. One guy was like, nope, it's not true. Ends up running the 4-minute mile. Okay. A barrier that stood for decades. He breaks the 4-minute mile. And then within 45 days, I think somebody else breaks the 4-minute mile. It stood for decades. And then within the year, 3 people break it in one race. So once you believe something is possible, all of a sudden it gets a lot easier.
It's like the 100 meters. I remember as a kid, there was this magical 10-second mark, right? I don't know when it got broken, but now in most races, everyone's under 10 seconds. Do you know what I mean? Everyone's like at various things. It's the same kind of thing. So beliefs are powerful. But I think it is important to clarify that point, because it's not just about saying the right thing. If you enjoyed that clip, here's another powerful clip that I think you are really going to enjoy.
It is the quality of our relationships that determines the quality of our lives. The story is never just created by one person. It's a co-creation. The way I speak is influenced by the way you listen. The way I see myself is influenced by the way you see me.